What's up, Foot Clan? In today's episode, we go through some trending or ending, some things that were happening last year. Will those things continue? And we break down Robbie Anderson's dynasty value. Stay tuned.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Welcome in. It's combine time. Hey.
That was combine.
That's right.
Okay.
Get hyped for the combine, baby.
Because
it's combine time.
It's easier to be hyped for combine time than CBA time.
That is true.
Right?
Negotiation time. Doesn't do it.
Doesn't flow off.
Legal paperwork time. Excited to be with everybody. Welcome back in. The Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Mike Wright, Jason Moore, Andy Holloway, back with you. It's February 25th. We have been following the CBA.
Mm-hmm.
I believe we're all pro football. You're pro football.
I'm pro football.
Mike.
I'm pro them playing football.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. Brooks, you pro football?
Yes.
Yeah, I am too. So I didn't even realize we had
That
so much in common.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But we'll see what happens. This show's coming out on Tuesday.
Is that what their go-to in the negotiation strategies?
So we'll see what happens.
Like, no, hey, players.
Oh.
We like football. You guys like football. Let's play football.
Should sign this thing.
Hey, let's get it done. There's a bit of money involved,
Come
Mike.
on.
It's
Yeah.
a profitable venture, football. This
So I've
football
heard.
thing. So we'll see what happens. Maybe there's some news that has come out between recording this and Tuesday morning. But the last I heard is that there was potential for a vote Tuesday afternoon. We'll see what happens. I could be wrong, but I'm optimistic. I hope something gets done here soon, and we know that we've got another, 10 years of labor peace?
It will be a new 10-year contract, but it will take away the current year. So it'll add 9 to what is currently happening. And no matter what, even if it doesn't happen and they storm out of the room in a very childish manner, it doesn't matter. We still got football next year. This is for 2021.
Yeah, we're just paying close attention. You can follow the show, the Fantasy Footballers, over on Twitter at the FF Ballers, Instagram.com/fantasyfootballers, YouTube.com/the Fantasy Footballers. Make sure you subscribe. Click the bell. I can tell you this right now. We're going to have a 2019 highlight video up on the YouTube very, very soon.
Oh, really?
Did you know that, Mike?
I heard some whispers from the bushes.
Yeah.
But I didn't know it was really happening.
Yeah, we had a few highlights last year. 1 or 2.
Some low lights.
Plenty of those.
Some medium lights.
Yeah. We also went through all of last year's shows and took out all those low lights. So we hard edits, everything that we had. No, we should have a new video up there, so check that out on YouTube. And a reminder, you have until March 1st to get that sweet Ultimate Draft Kit pre-sale bonus time. The Ultimate Draft Kit, as you know, this is the #1 tool for getting primed and ready for your upcoming drafts. If you pre-buy it, you get at the earliest price. You get some bonuses, and if you do it before March 1st, you get a shot at being a member of the 2020 Listener League.
Very prestigious.
Yeah.
Like, think about it. I mean, think about how many people have, been in space, and then think about how many people have been in the Fantasy Footballers Listener League.
Have there been more people in space than who have been a part of our Listener League?
Certainly in space, yes. If you had said on the moon, we would have really
I didn't say
had
that.
to think about that.
That's why I made sure I did not say that.
Yeah, and you could be like Brooks. We found Brooks through the Listener League.
Yes, be like Brooks.
Be like Brooks. Have you been to space, Brooks?
Nope.
See?
Not yet.
I don't know what that proves. Let's do some buy-sell.
Buy or sell, presented by Pristine Auction.
All right, this is a great one. Right now in a Dynasty League, are you buying or selling Robbie Anderson? Free agent wide receiver. Man of much hype. Years gone by. Robbie Anderson in a dynasty league, though, we've talked at length about landing in a new home as a wide receiver.
It's tough.
It can be.
It's tough, but we've also, in recent history, seen players who escape from Adam Gase and his offensive system all of a sudden start to thrive. Guys that we had kind of written off as they'll be nobodies in the NFL. Move along, and then you're like, oh, no, actually they're just being used improperly.
Yeah, and he is a free agent right
Yeah.
now. The expectation is that he will not be a Jet because he has set his heart on testing free agency.
Well, they've already
And-
replaced him.
I was going to say the same thing,
I'm
Mike.
sorry.
You know,
Yeah,
we
you're good.
all were going there. They signed Josh Doxson, so they good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Robbie Anderson is, you could argue, could be the second biggest name in free agency at the wide receiver position. You've got Amari Cooper, who, if he leaves Dallas, obviously he would be the gem of the wide receiver pool. But outside of that, I mean,
You have
you're
A.J.
talking about,
Green.
Sure, A.J. Green, older,
Right.
missed last year. Like, some people obviously might like that. But Robbie Anderson's 26 years old. He'll be 27 this season.
AJ Green is by far a bigger catch in free agency than Robbie Anderson.
My point is he's going to get paid. Tyrell Williams last year got paid. I mean,
That's why he won't be a Jet. I think they'd be happy to have him back. Darnold could use Robbie Anderson and all of his talents. It's just going to be the money problem.
I also, do you really think Robbie wants to go back to the Jets, or would he rather go to a new team?
I think
He wants to get paid.
Maybe he just wants the money.
Yeah.
That's also a very fair thing. But he's 6'3", he has 4.4 speed. If he lands in the right place, then he will be very interesting next year again. I know we all, and I'll speak just for myself. I keep going in on Robbie Anderson, and it blows up in my face. But I still think he's an exciting player, still young enough, and if I have to buy or sell him in Dynasty, I would be buying him, if that's my choices.
He's available. I have him.
So
if you're interested.
I will be selling him. I believe that we have seen enough history of flashes where he will get paid. I would not be selling him right now. Do not sell him until he signs the big contract, because he's about to sign a big money contract, and that will always, I mean, we just have too much evidence over the years. When someone goes somewhere for a new big contract, their value in fantasy leagues gets usually overinflated. And so I am more of a seller, because I don't believe that he changing teams, going to a new system, new quarterback, whatever, will definitely work out. I think there's a chance it just implodes. We've never really seen him put together the entirety of a season that we were thrilled with. He's just had short spurts of promise. And so him changing teams, one of the things you wanted to remember, Mike, this year was that when guys change in free agency, it doesn't always work out. Most of the time it doesn't.
Well, one of the caveats I at least had when Mike brought that up, though, was that I have less confidence in a good player, going to a new team and somehow leveling up because of all the hype around the transaction and the move. Brandon Cooks to the Patriots, that type of situation.
Right.
But with Robbie, you're right. I mean, he's going to get paid money. He's going to make more than $10 million a year.
Yes.
And that's going to be a huge investment for another team. So depending on where he lands, the talk of Philadelphia. That seems like one of those places that looks on paper like a great fit.
It would be a big upgrade for Robbie Anderson. Robbie Anderson has not played in the most optimal of situations with quarterbacks.
114 targets, 63 receptions. 94 targets, 50 receptions.
Yeah, he's a field stretcher. So his catch percentage isn't going to be up in the 70%.
But part of that, I was trying to add to your fuel. Maybe that's on him, but it's more
sure.
about the quarterback throwing him the ball there.
Now, Brooks, these dynasty trade offers, where did we get this list of possibilities?
Pulled up some rankings for 2020 dynasty rankings and players that were close to that.
All right, so Jason, you are the seller of Robbie Anderson.
I think I am too, by the way.
Okay.
I didn't weigh in officially, but I think I agree with Jason that I would wait for him to sign because there is a little bit of the off-the-field history. So if you combine some hype with that risk in Dynasty, I think I'd be selling too.
Okay, so if I came to you and I said, I will give you a 2020 late second-round pick.
No.
Give me Robbie.
Get out. Yeah, a late second is, I feel like I look at that as you've got a solid 30% chance of getting a player who can make it in the NFL.
Phillip Lindsay.
Yeah, I mean, if I needed running back help, I think I would.
Fair trade?
Yeah, fair trade.
Darius Geis.
No,
Give me Robbie.
I'm so hesitant on Geis in general.
All right, Kareem Hunt.
Well, since we're going to wait until Robbie Anderson signs someplace to sell, if Kareem Hunt were to be signed someplace that makes him a starter, I would definitely trade him for Kareem Hunt.
So what if he's back with the Browns?
No. Because he's
You'd
not
rather have
the
Robbie?
starter there.
Okay.
He's an okay running back option. He'll be, you could put him in your flex, but he's behind Chubb.
Okay. That was Buy or Sell, presented by Pristine Auction. Check them out, pristineauction.com. Use the code BALLERS.
Ballers.
Get $10 towards your first sports memorabilia purchase. Let's talk news.
News and notes from around the league.
Clearly no bigger news than the news we just couldn't help but drop earlier. Josh Doxson
Yeah.
signed with the Jets. Always a good sign when you're signed before free agency really officially begins because you didn't have a team, right? That's a big signing.
Look, they wanted Josh Doxson.
And they
That's
got him.
the narrative. Just, Josh, please pull a Devontae Parker. Please. He's not going to, but I can dream.
All right, you sang it at the beginning. It's combine time. What's going on
Yes.
with the combine?
It's combine time. What do you mean what's going on?
I mean, like the schedule. What do we got going on?
So Thursday will be the quarterbacks, wide receivers, and tight ends doing their drills, and Friday will be the running backs. That's kind of the fun, interesting things where you can go and you can get hyped about how fast people actually are. What the measurements, that's already happening. We're already seeing how big guys actually are. People are already freaking out about the size of Joe Burrow's hands.
Oh, my goodness.
Don't.
I love it.
Don't worry about it.
No, Mike, you don't understand. He has 9-inch hands.
And that's really small.
And that's really small, but Patrick Mahomes has 9 1/4.
That's cool.
Huge.
That's fine. That's cool.
So, and people always ask, what are you looking for in the combine? I mean, for when it comes to the metrics and the measurables of on the field stuff, like, yeah, I want to see Saquon Barkley's. I want to see the DK Metcalfs go out there and just blow up the high score and be like, holy crap, and get really interested in these players and build the hype because it's fun. But I like seeing how big guys actually are. That makes a really big difference where
The weight.
the height and the weight where a running back, I'm really interested in running back X. They come in, they weigh in, they're only 200 pounds. That's a little bit smaller, generally speaking, than I want my running back to be. But if I'm going to make a high rookie pick investment,
Are you
in
thinking
these
about
players-
Ronald Jones right now? Is that what you're thinking about?
No, I mean,
From years past.
sure, he was a bit smaller, but it doesn't always come to fruition. Like Devin Singletary was a smaller guy, and he also kind of stunk at the measurables. But Devin Singletary right now looks like he is an excellent dynasty prospect. He looks like he's going to make it as a running back. So it's make sure you're filtering everything through not rose-colored glasses. What would the opposite of rose-colored glasses be?
Poop-colored glasses.
Well, I don't want you to do that. I want you to have fun.
That's what it would be.
Like,
The
enjoy
opposite of a rose is poop?
Well, yeah, I mean, you got like the red, the pretty, or you
roses
got
really
the
smell
brown.
like hoo.
For me, I say this every year. The thing that I enjoy watching the most is the running back pass catching drills. I want to see how smooth they are at catching because when they're doing the gauntlet, you can really tell the difference between someone who catches it smooth and stride, thoughtless, and those who just have that little hitch, that little giddy up, that like I got to
Concentration hitch? They're
Absolutely.
like, I can do this.
Because outside of
I gotta believe.
things like that, and those, unfortunately, for a lot of people, those aren't measurable, right?
Right.
Like I can't go and look at
They
the
call it
score,
the Jordan Howard hitch now.
the score that someone got on their gauntlet drill, but most measurables are overblown. I mean, there's certain thresholds you want to hit just to be a quality NFL player, but you look at Dalvin Cook. How was his combine? It was
Right, it was rough.
horrific, and I'm also really excited to see Henry Ruggs. I want to see if he can beat the fastest man
The
alive
speed score, yeah.
That's just fun.
Yeah, I mean, the NFL is catching up on what we've brought up before, not us specifically, but we, the community, of overemphasizing some of the measurable stuff Yes, it's great to validate that Saquon is a freak. That kind of stuff is great. But Dalvin Cook's a great example of you have a lot to lose at the combine potentially as a high-tier prospect coming out of college, and NFL teams are catching up. Vic Fangio, he's showing up, but he's not sending his scouts along. Sean McVay's doing the same thing. They believe that their time and effort might be better appropriated elsewhere.
It's actually like watching the guys play football.
We've always joked about the 40. I like the 40. It's fun. It's entertaining. It's fun to watch. Give me one with pads on.
Yes, with a ball in your hand.
And here's why. Now, stay with me. Because I think they play in pads on Sunday.
Yeah, just
so that's where they will actually be running.
Yeah, Dalvin Cook is fast.
Well, look, they're planning for the extreme situation. Let's say a guy is running, he gets hit so hard, his pads they blow off his body.
Now you know how fast he is.
But then he gets to keep running.
Right,
After that.
somehow
he didn't get tackled.
landed on his feet.
Like, did you ever play like Ghosts and Goblins back on the old
that
NES?
game was so hard.
I mean, you would get hit and your armor would just explode off, and you got way faster. I mean,
that was a great reference, Mike.
thank you.
I don't remember that at all.
Oh man, it's too bad.
You said NES Classic?
There was also one on the Super. I think
okay.
the Super was Ghouls and Goblins.
The NFL needs the combine to still be a big deal for the kind of
It's fun, man. That's what I'm trying to say is it's fun, but measure yourself. Don't freak out over what's going to happen because we will do the freaking out for
We
you.
will
I'll be here.
bring in all of the
Getting
hype.
hyped.
Yeah. We'll be here to tell you that Metcalf can't run routes, right? Is that our
Yeah,
That's the kind of stuff that comes out of the combine measurables.
Yeah.
It is ironic because there are certain positions where there are sticky stats that are telling for the success of NFL players, but usually that's like the offensive line, the defensive line. For fantasy purposes, all the skill players, I think we're better off with tape and production rather than athletic measurables.
Yeah, the media hype around the combine just makes the combine more important than it probably is for scouts anymore. But it's still important. It's not unimportant. All right, what else is going on? We talked about the CBA vote likely happening. No real big updates there. We'll talk all about it if it goes through. Jarvis Landry expected to be sidelined 6 to 8 months. He had hip surgery.
We'll talk about him in just a minute.
Yeah, we're doing some trending or ending on the show today. So expected to make a full recovery for the 2020 season, but we'll talk about whether we believe that means production is coming your way.
I don't know. The timelines are a little fuzzy.
The way math adds up?
Yes.
6 to 8 months mixed with when the season would begin?
Right.
Okay. Danny Amendola coming back, 1-year deal with the Detroit Lions.
Health meter, it fills back up over the offseason.
Oh, man, we didn't get the drop.
We have a drop for Danny Amendola?
We have a mediocre signing of the week.
Oh, stop. I
mean,
don't think he deserves that.
Oh, absolutely Danny Amendola deserves that. I'm a Danny Amendola fan.
I think he's good.
He's fine. You know what I would say? He's mediocre. I tried to give you enough time there.
There's no drop.
All right.
Or if there is, I missed it. But here's the thing with Amendola is I'd rather him be on my team than not at this stage in his career. He's not a headline guy.
No.
And for goodness sakes, if you tell me to play him in fantasy, you're going to have a hard time picking
Now,
him.
speaking of pads, like they should give that guy like a extra.
He should be wearing the 1970s NFL uniform.
The super big shoulder pads.
That's probably still legal, right?
I hope so. If one guy out there was just in these absurd pads, that would be so fun. He would be my favorite player.
When you have an undersized offensive line, that's the solution. They'll look a little bit more intimidating. All right, we're going to get into trending or ending. But first, I want to thank Simply Safe for sponsoring today's show. Look, with home security, there are 2 ways you can go about protecting your home. You got that traditional way. You wait for a technician. You sign a long contract. It costs you a small fortune.
Boo.
Not good, right?
Boo.
There's another way, and it's Simply Safe. We've been using Simply Safe here at Foot Clan headquarters for quite some time, well before they were a sponsor. It's award-winning protection. It's everything you need in a security system. They're the 2-time winner of the CNET Editor's Choice Award. We haven't even won that. It's ridiculous.
Yet.
It's ridiculous.
Thank you, Jason.
And it's easy to install. Anyone can do it. It takes 30 minutes, an hour tops. There are no trade-offs for your safety, and that's why The Verge called Simply Safe, the best home security system. Check it out today at simplysafe.com/footballers. Get free shipping and a 60-day risk-free trial at simplysafe.com/footballers. SIMPLI safe.com/footballers.
If these trends continue, hey!
That's a good one.
The off season is when the classics come out.
I think I poo-pooed you last week on one
You
of these
did.
drops. That was fire.
All right, You're back?
You definitely did.
Yeah, well, yeah, I remember. I was there.
Trending or ending? Another memory from last week is coming into my head, though, and I don't know. I guess I'm gonna bring it up.
Please do.
How's your hand?
Oh!
How's your hamstring?
Oh!
How's your hamstring?
Oh, man. It is fine now. It wasn't last week. I had a unexpected Charlie horse whilst sitting.
Not your first sitting injury.
No, won't
Not
be
your
my last.
Not your second sitting injury.
It's your third recorded sitting injury.
The third
Since
that
they
YouTube-
started tracking that
Yeah,
stat.
Right. It was my third seated leg injury while being in the room with both Mike and Andy in this past year. That's the qualifiers. But
And you're recovering?
I'm fully made a full recovery.
Okay.
But in the moment, and we've got to get this video out there because you won't believe it. You won't believe it. You'll say, I don't believe it. That's what you're going to say because it's my reaction.
It was disturbing to the point where I thought, genuinely, Jason, I thought for sure you were having some sort of heart attack or seizure event.
It was a full grand mal.
Like, if you listened to me, I was basically, are you okay? Do we need to chest compressions? What do we need here?
You won't see
For a hammy injury.
You won't for a seated hammy injury. You won't see anything funnier this year. Okay, Foot Clan. When we put we should put it wherever YouTube.
Yeah, there's a GIF. I've already made one.
It is the most ridiculous thing you'll see.
I want to stress that Jason is 100% okay because when you see this without context, you will think this man is dying. But we'll get back to at the FF Ballers on Twitter. Al Borland can figure it out. Trending or ending? You brought up Jarvis Landry's name before. Will Jarvis Landry finish as a top 20 wide receiver again?
So wide receiver 13 in 2019, mostly because he emerged as the Cleveland Browns' #1 wide receiver, tied for the wide receiver 7 in fantasy points from weeks 9 through 17, despite Odell Beckham Jr. being there. Odell Beckham also, he had his own surgery, right?
That is correct.
He had a core surgery.
Yeah, both guys are.
They're upgrading him to the Pentium.
Mm-hmm. Very nice.
Thank you.
A Pentium reference.
Oh man, that core processor.
So Jarvis Landry, it's really hard to bet against Jarvis Landry. I mean, he's been super consistent. He's been not so much a stud for fantasy football, but he's just been a reliable guy because he's reliable in the NFL. He's reliable for fantasy football, especially in a PPR situation. I am concerned though about the surgery. Like if he is not ready to play until 2 weeks before the season starts, that's not going to be surprising.
Yeah, so I looked into the injury, the surgery, the recovery timeline, all that. We've heard the 6 to 8 months. The procedure seems to be relatively simple. The timeline is that 6 to 8 month. You know, it takes a while to recover, but that should, or at least could, put him available in training camp. And if you remember, this injury happened last offseason. He missed the offseason program. And he doesn't miss games. He's a tough guy. He left this season saying that he was not going to have the surgery. Had the 3 weeks after the season, met with the team doctors. They were going to find a method to just manage the pain. But then he played in the Pro Bowl 3 weeks afterwards. And during that time, even though he was just jogging and, you're not going all out at the Pro Bowl. He was like, there was a lot of pain. He reevaluated, decided to have the surgery. But Jarvis doesn't miss games. That's why, you look at the last 5 years, wide receiver 13, 14, 7, 19, and 13. 2 different teams, a bunch of different quarterbacks. So I'm gonna say that if he is there at training camp, I am gonna be in on Jarvis Landry, continuing the trend. I think he's a phenomenal wide receiver in real life. He's been good for fantasy, and that hasn't been on the back of double-digit touchdown seasons that are very volatile. So I'm going to buy it. However, I'm still going to stick with my don't buy the injury dip. So should he be injured too long into training camp and his draft stock drop, I'm going to let it drop past.
Shark Tank?
Yeah, but if he's there for training camp, I buy that he will continue the trend of being the number 1 wide receiver for the Cleveland Browns.
You going to draft that way?
No. Well, I mean, I would draft that way.
Jason's already said he's probably not drafting Beckham.
Yeah, ADP would be that way. I'll bet my rankings are that way.
You bet your rankings.
They'll be close if not that way. But I would not buy Odell Beckham at whatever his ADP would be, and I would buy Jarvis Landry at what his ADP would be, so long as he's there for training camp, which the timeline does allow.
Did we ever go through any of those end of season water bets? Like those year-long bets that we would make? Because it was tempting.
The really funny ones that we make right around now.
The one that I was super
season.
tempted to be giving you the OBJ versus Landry thing, but it's not even really fair because of injury. Did we ever go through those, Brooks?
No,
did you ever look at them?
He's shaking his head no.
I have not.
They exist. I know we made those bets. Was this wide receiver 13 finish, is that half PPR?
Yes.
It's kind of shocking to me that you have a season with about 6 games that you're kind of happy to impressed with Jarvis Landry, and that ends up at wide receiver 13.
It wasn't.
That feels like a bit of an indictment on all receivers.
I was going to say it was a down year on the wide receiver position, so it didn't take as much to finish where he did this season.
Yeah, I'm right on the edge. I think I'm going to say ending. I think he ends up out of the top 20. All right, let's move on.
Ooh.
A lot of fantasy football owners want to know, will Super Camario, Alvin Kamara, finish outside the top 5 running backs again, or does he jump back up? What do you think?
That spot is very high. Top 5 says he's, got to be one of the absolute best, and you had new players breaking in this year, Derrick Henry and Aaron Jones. You've got obviously Christian McCaffrey's there, Zeke, and some of the stalwarts. So this is really a question of, do you think Alvin Kamara is still one of the elite or not? Because this past season he was not. I mean, you're on a per game basis, which is I think how you have to look at it, since he obviously missed some time with that ankle injury. He was still good. He was the running back 10 on a points per game basis, but he was not great. Now I know my answer to this.
When you go from 18 to 6 touchdowns from year to year, that is tough to overcome.
Yeah, so I know my answer on whether I buy into Alvin Kamara being outside of that or whether he's still the elite of the elite. So I'd like to hear your guys' arguments.
I think he finishes outside the top 5 again. And I think that has more to do with the emergence and creativity of both Taysom Hill and then what Jared Cook could do in the offense last year. Both were variables that were not in play with his kind of overabundance of touchdowns in 2018. So do I think Alvin Kamara is a great fantasy running back? Yes. Do I think he finishes outside the top 5 again? Yes, I do.
I'm back. I will be back in on Alvin Kamara as a top 5 guy. You talked about, Jason, his points per game, where he was, and that's with 5 rushing touchdowns and only 1 receiving touchdown, which Kamara had 5 receiving touchdowns, 4 receiving touchdowns the previous 2 years. I'll be back in. Like, Drew Brees is back. The Saints offense is still going to be very, very prolific. They're going to be one of the top scorers in the league. I think this was just a flukish touchdown year for Alvin Kamara on top of the injury problem that he had. So I'll be right back in with Kamara.
Yeah, and I'm with Mike on this one. I do think that Alvin Kamara is phenomenal. This team is one of the highest scoring teams in the league. I think touchdowns will swing to an appropriate area that will push him up there. And one of the things we talked about on the things not to forget from last episode is the high ankle sprain, where it took some time once he was back to get going. Not only that, you also have the Teddy Bridgewater period of time where the team, didn't score as much, wasn't quite as high flying through that stretch. So I believe coming in next year healthy, he's still a young guy. He doesn't have a ton of work on the legs, and I believe in the offense. So I will be back in on Alvin Kamara next season.
You guys are way off. He's going to be RB. He's going to be RB6. RB6.
Fair.
All right, I'm really excited to talk about these next two, trending or ending. The first one is, can Brandon Cooks return to being a top 15 fantasy wide receiver? What do we think? Before 2019, he had been a top 14 wide receiver the past 4 seasons. I dug into his contract situation. Obviously, last year was kind of a lost year for Brandon Cooks. But he ain't going anywhere, guys. I don't see any way, shape, or form that he can. If he was leaving, they would need to cut him before March 20th. After March 20th, his hit is astronomical. You cut him right now, his dead cap hits $21 million.
Yeah,
if you cut him after March 20th, it's $30 million. So I think Brandon Cooks, at his age, with some time, obviously the concussions are a scary thing. But can he return to being a top 15 fantasy wide receiver? What do we think?
I definitely think he will not be a top 15 fantasy wide receiver. If you said top 24, I would hem and haw, and I would probably I'd probably say no. I think that there's a change that has happened to the Rams' offense in general. I mean, the game splits between the concussions. Like, his snap percentages before and after are pretty drastic, but that also came with a change. We talk so much about Tyler Higbee's involvement and him being a key piece of this offense. I think this offense has adapted and changed. I mean, when you look at Brandon Cooks, I mean, he played 14 games. He was out there on the field. It didn't feel like it. You feel like, well, he missed most of the season. He had the concussion problems. Finished, as whatever wide receiver, 60-something. But he played the whole year. So I don't see where okay, now coming into next year, he's going to be a top flight issue. And that's not to even say the potential injury risk, right? Like, okay, he's got some serious concussion issues, so the chance of him finishing outside of this due to injury next year is a little higher. So I am worried on Cooks. I will be down and buying the trend of what has happened this year going forward.
Yeah, I agree with some of the things you said with your mouth. I think top 15 is too ambitious. I think it's fair to make a concession there and say, top 24. That I would buy him top 24. Inside that range. He's young. He's still talented. I'm not willing to declare a fundamental transition in the Rams offense when you have Robert Woods, Brandon Cooks, and Cooper Kupp, those type of weapons in the passing game. You've talked a lot about the post-high ankle sprain performances of Kamara, Barkley, but Brandon Cooks was dealing with multiple concussions. Yes, he formally missed 2 games. He also informally missed a couple more by snap count. It's going to be something where you have to say, is Brandon Cooks a relevant fantasy football player anymore?
Right.
And at his age and on that offense, I believe he is.
And with his contract.
And there are rumors of trading him, teams that want to go out and get him. I've heard New England talk about bringing him back because of the opportunity to replicate what he did with them when we didn't think we were that impressed, but he was still a top 15 guy on that team with no Julian Edelman helping him out that season. So I just am not willing to throw the talent on Brandon Cooks as a player after one down year.
Now, do you make anything of the beginning of the year? Because I'll make the exception. Okay, he had the concussion problems at the end of the year, and maybe all of a sudden it changes his play. Now he's hesitant. The team is choosing to use him different. But of those first 7 games before the concussion game, 4 of those he was not even a top 40 wide receiver. He had 2 solid games where he was wide receiver 14, then 16. an okay game at wide receiver 20, and that was against Tampa Bay. That was just allowing everyone to be an awesome fantasy wide receiver.
There was some concerns on tape about separation this year that played into that, and so that would be a fair concern. He's going to be, 27 next year?
Yeah.
So I guess I'm looking at the 4 consecutive seasons of 1,100 range production and believing that he can get back there. Last year certainly doesn't do anything to encourage you that way, but we saw him do it with the Rams before, and I believe that top 24 is doable.
Yeah, so one of the things with Brandon Cooks is he's such a field stretcher, down the field guy. The offensive line for the Rams being so bad does not give them the time to utilize Brandon Cooks, and I think that's why they shifted and said, okay, we're going to need to have more like tight end across the middle play, quick.
I think you're 100%
quick shots
right.
Rather than being able to involve him because it would be great to throw it to the guy deep down the field, but we don't have the time to do it. So I don't think they're going to completely rectify their offensive line situation. So
yeah, and I think that's a pretty good picture of what happened to Brandon Cooks, guy that had averaged 15 plus per reception.
Yeah, he was great.
The 3 previous years, it drops to 13.9 last year. Mixing concussions, mixing Jared Goff's up and down play, offensive line play. So maybe we transition our thought on their offense if their offensive line looks better on paper heading into the year.
Maybe. Yeah, I mean, that would certainly bode better for the down-the-field guy.
Can Mike Gesicki, trending or ending, that second half pace from 2019, is that a trend? Are we going to begin the Gesicki experience?
The Miami Dolphins tight end, talk about a player that got you really, really excited after his combine performance where he just breaks every measurable possible. He's an absolute athletic freak. He is a tough case, but was he a prisoner of Adam Gase, where the Adam Gase regime drafted him into Miami? They spent a very high draft capital. Was he a second-round pick? I'm pulling this off the top of my head, but I know they drafted him very early.
It is a second-round pick, Mike.
Thank you, Brooks. And I mean, those first couple of years, you're like, wow, Mike Gesicki, holy cow, this dude is an absolute massive bust. But then Preston Williams goes down, and from weeks 10 through 17, he's the tight end 9 in fantasy points per game. Now, tight end 9 is not that doesn't really get you hot and bothered to make it up to the number 9. But was this the emergence? Is this of things that could come for Mike Gesicki? Because if he gets the opportunity, he should be able to make the most out of it. And you have reports now coming out from ESPN, Cameron Wolf, saying we expect Mike Gesicki to be used in the slot. Like, we're going to turn him into a big slot guy.
And Chan Gailey is very pass heavy there.
Right, and you want to talk the big slot. That's how Jordan Reed was dominant. That's when you see Evan Engram getting open. It's because he's the big dude in the slot, and he's getting featured. How are you feeling, Jason, about Mike Gesicki's the possibility that he takes that and he turns that into a season-long performance?
Let's call trending a top 12 finish.
Yeah, I think that's I think that's a very likely outcome for Mike Gesicki. I remember when we were scouting his college tape, I was very down on Gesicki because I thought the way they utilized him, he was coming in so raw, and he was going to take time to develop into an NFL tight end because the way his college program used him was not in any way, shape, or form how NFL tight ends are utilized. Well, the opportunity came. You brought up Preston Williams, and so there's a big question of was he just in the right time?
Right.
The splits with and without.
He was the
Preston.
replacement player.
There was also some Rosen time in there.
Yeah, that's true. Averaged 6 fantasy points a game. When Preston Williams was out there, 11.5 when Preston Williams was gone. But the Dolphins don't have a ton of options or great weapons. So the way that I view this is they now see that they have a special player. They are going to get him involved because it's a really easy path for him. Who's he really got to beat? A Preston Williams coming back off of a bad knee injury? However, it's the Miami Dolphins. The upside is not going to be there. He's not going to be able to take the Mark Andrews leap because, Mark Andrews, we saw some of he reminds me so much of Mark Andrews. Really good telling sticky stats at the end of the year that say this guy could be a legit fantasy option. The big difference is we could see the Ravens taking that step forward as an offense with Lamar Jackson. I don't know that the Dolphins are taking some massive step forward in offense next year with either Fitzpatrick or a rookie. So I think a low-end tight end one is what Gesicki is right now.
And you'll have the Fitzpatrick dilemma all year long. Like, Ryan Fitzpatrick, we love him on this show. We love him because he creates fantasy players. He turned Devontae Parker from a 4-year bust into a breakout, one of the best fantasy players of last year. He can do that with Mike Gesicki, but Miami's going to draft a rookie, and at what point do they pull the plug on Ryan Fitzpatrick? And now your outlooks of Gesicki being that low-end tight end one, it takes a really big shot at the probability.
I'm going to say they pull the plug on the week that he throws 4 interceptions. So
that Fitzpatrick.
Week
so
3.
Who knows? Who knows?
I do agree that there's just not a lot of – there's not going to be a lot of competition for Gesicki for targets. Even though we're now before free agency, the Dolphins are a team that's going – they have a sickening amount of draft picks.
A Gesickening?
A Gesickening amount. And those are players that are going to have to come to fruition, mature, develop. I don't think they're going to spend a ton in free agency on this kind of transitional year where there will be a quarterback transition taking place most likely. So ultimately, the opportunity, the window for Gesicki right now with Chan Gailey, with this news, with what we saw last year, I'll go ahead and agree on the trending assessment. You guys want to do a little mailbag before we shut this thing down?
Let's do it.
Mailbag.
All right, if you have a question, you can send it to us. Send it to us right now. 302-464-TFFB.
If you send it to us right now, it won't be on this show.
Well, whose right now are you talking about, Mike? Because my right now is different than their right now. And I'm talking about their right now.
Your right now. If you send your right now to our right now, it will not be on this show.
I'm going to say either right now. Either right now won't get on this episode. Whether it's Andy's right now or their right now, it's impossible.
But we're going to do more shows, right?
Next episode, you'll definitely be on.
Totally.
302-464-TFFB, thefantasyfootballers.com. Click the submit a question button. Make sure you don't click submit a question now. Do submit a question later. That's a different button.
Yes.
Facebook question from Paul Maris James. What's Damian Williams' trade value in a dynasty?
Oof.
I feel like this question is like a bad echo. Like I hear this question on schedule once every 3 days. Because nobody...
And we also heard it last offseason.
That's right. That's a good point.
That's why you're feeling deja vu is exactly what you're feeling, because we've talked about it a little bit. Damian Williams could enter next year as the starting running back for Kansas City. And as you saw in the playoff run, when he's healthy and that offense is going, Damian Williams is an absolute fantasy stud when he's starting for Kansas City.
Let me ask you...
But he might be replaced in the draft.
Let me ask you an interesting question.
All right.
2020 late round second.
Yeah.
Or, sorry, 2020 late second round pick. For Damian Williams.
Second round rookie pick. I think I would take that. Now, I know I'm the anti-Damian Williams
I would take that
believer here, but
you would take the pick?
I would.
The reality is I think the Kansas City Chiefs draft a good running back in this year's draft. They went out and tried to get someone great. They went out and got LaShawn McCoy. And
they tried to get some depth.
Sure, I think they hoped that they would get Shady, reunited with Andy Reid, and that they could have something special. They saw quickly, like, he's lost.
Right.
He's not the guy. But the point is, he's gone. Like, Shady's not the guy. They know that now. There's no other backups there. I think even if they loved Damian Williams, they have to go out and get some other competent, good running backs, and you usually do that through the draft. If they do and find a really good running back, I think it's danger to Damian Williams.
Yes, it is very dangerous. I will remind us and everyone listening, you can't just automatically say, well, look at Kareem Hunt. Because if you remember the actual timeline, when they took Kareem Hunt in the third round,
They didn't want to play him that quick.
Spencer Ware was still the starting running back.
Yeah, that was just good timing.
Spencer Ware went down to a season-long injury, and then Kareem Hunt was awesome and took the job. So let's say they take a player in the third round, and you could get a great running back in the third round this year.
A third rounder alone does not scare me tremendously for Damian.
So if a top 2 pick, though, first or second rounder?
That'd scare the heck out of me.
Okay.
Yeah, that guy's getting in there.
Okay.
But the reason I say it doesn't scare me tremendously is just like what you're saying. It's Andy Reid didn't show that kind of gusto with a Darwin Thompson this year.
Right.
And I think the reason this question is so difficult or asked so often is because the consequences are great. They're not small. Like if Damian is the guy, oh my gosh, I feel like last offseason. If Damian's the guy, there's nobody arguing that it's valuable to be the guy on the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs.
If you want to trade him, you go to whoever won the championship or whoever lost in the championship game. Say, hey, I'll trade you Damian Williams and try and get
Find your Chiefs fan.
Try and get their late first-round pick or something.
Find your Chiefs fan. I think
that'll work too.
Nobody wants to celebrate their Super Bowl quite like trading for some of their own players. Mike, would you take a late second-round pick for Damian?
I once again, it's the context of my team. If I'm rebuilding, then yeah, I would.
Darius Geis or Damian in a dynasty league?
Damian.
Geis.
I think I'm leaning Geis.
You guys are crazy.
I think, look, he's proven it. If Damian Williams has the role, he's going to be very good for
fantasy.
fantasy.
There's a chance both those players have 0 relevant fantasy games the rest of their career starting now.
Yes.
That's the kind of trade I like to be a part of.
That's not an outlandish statement.
No. Playoff seedings question from Chris in a place in Maryland. Jamesville?
You got James.
Ooh,
right.
Jamesville.
How do you guys feel about the top seeds
This is not a real place.
choosing their fantasy opponents in the first round?
I love it.
I do too.
I think it's good because you want to know what it avoids? It avoids that
Them not choosing it.
No, but you know the last week when you're looking at your playoff matchups and you're thinking, man, I actually like my matchup better if I lose this week. You know, we've all been there before when you're heading into the playoffs.
You like your seeding, you're saying?
Yeah, like you take a look at the seeding and you go, oh, man, I think if I lose this week, I would rather play Josh than Brooks or whatever. And so this takes that out. You know, the higher seeds, they choose their opponent. I think that's kind of fun and cool. I definitely don't think leagues need to change over to it immediately, but I'm just saying I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, I think that's my answer too. I don't have a problem with it if your league wants to do it. Non-traditional, interesting. Mike, do we have any word on whether Jamesville is?
Apparently it's real.
Oh, man, the music there's got to be so hot.
You might say it's jamming.
Jamming. It's like, a Jamesville here.
Is there a U Jamesville? Like Jamesville, U Jamesville?
They're actually rivals.
they
They're
are
right next to each other.
Very heated against one another.
Okay. This is good to know. All really good information. I'll skip this one that says, how would you rate Darius Geis' dynasty value, unless you guys want to add to the previous discussion.
Slightly above Damian Williams.
Apparently it's better than Damian Williams' value,
I
which
feel
is,
like
which is
It's
ridiculous.
I feel like if Mike doesn't have a good thing to say about Darius Geis right there, that says something.
Exactly.
Because Mike would be finding a way, because not only do I think we all have genuine compassion over his injury situation,
Yes.
but like Mike he's been Geis's guy for a while.
I was Stallone at the beginning of Cliffhanger, and the lady that he's trying to hold on to, that was me holding on to Darius Geis' dynasty value.
Oh, no.
And then the clip breaks.
That doesn't end well.
And the glove slips off, and he tumbles down into a cavern of death.
Oh, man.
I would have
Figuratively.
I want him to be good.
I would have preferred an Ace Ventura 2 reference there, Mike, but I will accept the cliffhanger reference.
Willing to accept it. All right, let's go ahead and look at one more here. A Facebook question from Sarge D. Best trade shenanigans in order to get your trade approved. Well. You asked this question.
Approved by like the league or approved by the trade partner?
Oh, interesting.
Because
I thought you meant the league, and I was going to just transition that into like, please don't allow vetoes in your league speech.
Yes. Oh, yeah, we can go there.
We should do both because I think, Mike, that you're right in what the question is, wanting to get it accepted, I think, by the other person. But in general, remove your trade deadline, your whole timer, the 24-hour period where you've all got to vote on whether a trade should go through. Just if you're in a league with good people, let trades be instant.
Trades are instant,
and then if there's a real problem, you can undo one. But a real problem means known provable collusion, not lopsided.
Right.
Now on to the actual question.
Which is, how do you trick someone into accepting your bad trade?
Well,
is that the actual question?
Yeah,
Yes,
we're implying we're using shenanigans.
Look, I know Andy's had done this forever, and he's worked. This is a shenanigan that's always worked. He just keeps throwing in more. He just keeps throwing in more garbage because eventually, when it's like, well, I'm getting 16 players and 22 picks.
He does. He grabs the garbage can. And out comes like a used tissue and apple core.
And you want to know what they say? They say, "No, I'm not taking your garbage can." He goes, "Okay." And then he leaves the neighborhood. He comes back with the garbage truck. He backs that thing up to the house. He dumps it in your lawn and says, "Say no to this." And they're like, "Well, that's a lot."
What if I
I'm willing
include a
to-
bag of dog poop?
I am willing to overwhelm.
Yes.
The key to any good trade
with
discussion.
stench of stinky garbage.
Some is stench, but I will say this. I've been burned before, and sometimes it's not with stench. Sometimes it's I'm willing to pay more because that transaction means more to me than it does to you, to get that one player, to lose these other assets, to open up a pickup spot for the waiver wire. I will say this, though. The best shenanigan to getting a trade approved is to get that person dialoguing about the offer that you sent. It sounds stupid, but if you get somebody to give you a rational reason, this is tomfoolery at its best. Force a rational reason why they're saying no to your initial offer, and then overcome it with the next offer.
with the garbage.
Because sometimes that's the kind of like situation you need where get them to tell you why they're saying no so that you can either break them logically when they say no to overcoming it or they say yes.
Yeah, the most important part of negotiation is keeping communication alive. So
Right.
it really is all about the dialogue.
Sending them chocolates. That could work.
Sending them photos
Whoa.
of the players that
Yes,
they would
I prefer to
receive.
send shirtless photos.
Oh,
I do
if-
send
yeah.
some highlight videos of the players I'm offering them. I've done that before just for fun.
Whoops, how did this get here?
Wow, look at these moves. Just get that dialogue going. Get it going.
Can't believe I'm going to trade this guy.
Here's the thing.
That's my favorite line. If I'm trading a guy that I want the other person to know is amazing, I always go with this one. Here's one for you. He's not a really good roster fit for my team.
Oh,
he's
very
the
nice.
best player in the NFL, but just the way that I'm looking to balance over here, he would fit so good on your team.
That's code for I'm going to cut this player in
And-
2 days if
No,
no one trades
no.
for them.
And here's what you do. You always build up the guys that you are giving. Never, ever tear down the guys that you're trying to trade for. That
Right.
one, the owners see through. They're like, what?
Yeah.
Well, then why would you trade for this guy?
For
Don't
in-
be like, well, his knee injury might not come back. That's dumb.
Yeah, if I'm trying to trade Mike Damian Williams,
Right.
I would go with a line like this. I'd say, look, Mike, I know the potential that Damian Williams has to kind of be a top 5 guy the rest of the way here, but my team right now, I'm trying to get a win real quick. I don't have time to wait for that. You seem like your roster could handle that kind of upside.
Perfect. Here's Darius Geis.
Oh, cha-ching.
Fair trade. Perfect trade. All right, that does it for today's episode of the show. Again, check out ultimatedraftkit.com. Get that pre-order bundle, that special deal before March 1st.
Couple days left.
And we'll be back here on Thursday with a new CBA. Right?
Hopefully.
Right?
See you next time. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com. And follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.
And a reminder, Foot Clan Simply Safe is everything you need in a home security system. You'll have an army of highly trained security experts ready to dispatch police to your home at a moment's notice 24/7, and you can set the system up yourself. Check it out today at simplisafe.com/footballers. Get free shipping and a 60-day risk-free trial at simplysafe.com/footballers.